Hello everyone, is anybody still out there? This is Annette, and it's time to make another FlossTube. 2026 is a new year, so it seemed like a good opportunity to start over with the channel and get things going again. It has been 4.5 years, and there's been a lot that's gone on. I'm not going to try to recap the entire 4.5 years because nobody's got time for that. And I'm not sure there would be a whole lot of interest, even if I did. So over the course of the next months, whatever, obviously some of those details may come out, some of the things, I'll hit some highlights as part of today, as kind of a reintroduction. I don't know. I welcome back anybody that stuck with me and that still had me as in their YouTube subscription list. Thank you so much for being optimistic of my return. But I'm sure, hopefully, this will find some new folks as well. So my name is Annette. I live in Arizona, Mesa, Arizona, to be specific. Married. I have 2 grown children, both of which are married and out of the house. And we have 2 miniature schnauzers, which you may see walking around in the background here now and then. My husband and I both work in the IT industry, in the consulting industry, and have been married for 28 years. So we've been together for a while. I've been stitching since the very early 80s, and it's amazing. I look back and see all the things that I've done over those years, how tastes have changed, designers have changed. I never did stitch a goose in a hat, so I can say that. But it's amazing the way the industry has grown and changed over the years. So my goal here from a FlossTube perspective, we're going to keep it simple. I know there are so many different people to watch nowadays, but I appreciate you taking some time here to spend with me. So it's been a while. So FlossTube number 55 was filmed in the summer of 2021. There were definitely things that have happened since then. There have been work things and health things that went on. At the time, we had 3 dogs. We now only have 2. We lost one of our schnauzers. But we also gained a family member. My son had just moved out in that 2021 video, and he actually got married in the fall of 2024. So much change and so many things have happened. Again, I'm not going to try to recap 4.5 years. First of all, my stitching muse abandoned me for long stretches of time. And so even if I wanted to go back and try to show everything that I worked on or finished during that time, I stopped keeping records. So I do, however, have a few things that I can share from at least from the last month that I have finished. And so we'll start there. All right, so in December of 2025, I attended Jingle Ball. I attended previously in 2023, but I attended in 2025. I took 2 classes, and I actually finished both items. So the first one was Kathy Haberman's hands-on design, the poinsettia pin keep. So not only did I stitch it, but I finished it, and it's all good. So I managed that. It was a great class. Kathy does a great class. The other class that I took was with Primrose Cottage for their for the bags, and I need to figure out which side. This side. We're going to do this side. So I stitched the bag as part of the class, including the monogram on the back. This is all done in number 5 pearl cotton, and oh my gosh, it can be hard on the fingers, but I did get it all done. So. And it'll be very useful. The other thing that I did in December was I participated in the Modern Folk Embroidery Roxy Floss Evertote Advent Calendar. This is the first time that I've done any sort of stitching advent calendar that included actual stitching. But I participated and I actually finished the design. So here is the result. I made no changes. This is exactly as it was charted. But it turned into a beautiful design. I'm very happy. I'm very happy with it. And the format was very interesting because every day we got a piece of the chart and a beautiful Roxy Floss color for that day. And we only ever used, with one minor exception, we only ever used this one color per day. So it was very easy to keep up with, very easy to keep track of, with the exception of a short business trip that I had to do in the middle. I did do everyday stitching on the day that it was released, so I was really proud about that. And I'll definitely consider doing it next year. So that was a very good experience. So those are last month's finishes. The nice thing is I've actually, even though I went through long stretches of no stitching or very little stitching in the last 4 years, the last 5 to 6 months has definitely come back and re-energized. That's part of the reason that I wanted to come back to FlossTube and start recording again, because it adds that much more energy and drive to my stitching. So I felt like I had enough and I was doing enough that I could actually put together a video on a regular basis that had enough content. That being said though, I'm trying not to focus on stitching for content, more just on the journey of stitching rather than the destination or the final product. So 2026, I have no idea how many whips I have. I'm not going to do a whip parade, but I do have some plans, or I have kind of an approach, shall we say, for the year. We're looking for, this year's really kind of being the search for progress and really kind of enjoying what I'm doing, and spending the time and taking the time for what we're creating in the journey and the stitching and all that stuff. So I broke down and bought, and I found a new planner. So I'm using the My Crazy Life planner, and keeping track of what I'm working on, how much time. In my last fall, as I was doing some clearing out and organizing just a tiny bit, I actually stumbled across my old timer that I used to use for 10-hour rotations, and it was dead, so I had to replace the battery and do all that. But it basically said, you know what, maybe I want to turn back the clock and go back to what was working before, and that is the concept of a 10-hour rotation. I was really trying to identify how I could approach and organize stitching for 2026. And so I tried out a few methods towards the end of last year. I tried temperature stitching, where the high temperature of the previous day dictated what one worked on any given day. I identified 10 whips, assigned the numbers. I did it for about 10 days, and it was okay. But I don't like just doing one day on a project. To me, I might only get 30 minutes. I might get 3 hours. It just depends on the day. And only having one day to me just didn't seem like I was getting enough forward momentum on any project. So while it was enjoyable, it was not, I knew that it would not work long term. I might last a month and that would be the end of it. So I tried that. I've done WhipGo in the past, but I found it way too constricting, even when I created a board of just very, categories, that it just didn't work. I'd last about 4 or 5 months in a year, and then I would abandon it for whatever reason. So I can't do too many plans. I can't overplan myself. I'm not a planner from a leisure perspective. I'm very much a planner from a work perspective, but not from a leisure perspective at this time in my life. So finding and stumbling across my old timer, I felt was kind of it's kind of a sign that maybe I needed to go back and revisit the concept of a 10-hour rotation. So that's what I did. Once I completed the Advent sampler, because I didn't work on much else during the month of December, once I completed the Advent sampler, I went through my temperature whips to say, all right, which ones do we want to kind of mold into a 10-hour rotation? I knew I was going to have 2 starts in January. I'd already planned that. One of them I'll show you because I've completed 10 hours on it. But the other thing I started was Satsuma Street's Local Conditions, which will be my first temperature sampler that I've ever done. So, and I've managed to get the first couple days for January 1st and 2nd here in Arizona. I did have to make a fairly significant adjustment. This is the original temperature and color key that came in the chart. Unfortunately, it would not work well for me. I would end up with I'd end up with 4 colors only to cover pretty much July, August, and September, which that wasn't going to work. So I redid the temperature ranges to something that will be more Arizona friendly and provide a little bit more granularity especially in the summer months when we stay more over 100 than under 100. So I reworked that and have gone ahead and gotten started on those first couple of days. So crossing fingers, I'm not expecting to stitch on it every day, but I do hope to at least do it at a week at a time. I'm also pulling colors as I need them. Obviously, as we continue into the warmer months, I'll be able to put some colors away, but I'm not kitting the whole thing up first. I'm just going to pull from my DMC as I need the colors. So that I started yesterday on the 2nd. All right, so let me get the other pile I have. Okay, thank you. We're ready now. All right, so as I was going through the whip pile and the things that were of interest and continuing on, and I think all of this has been started in the last 4 years. So eventually the older pieces will come back, but for right now, this is where we're at. The first thing that I chose that I felt was fairly close to having a finish was the 2024 Fox and Rabbit Mystery Sampler. I started off really well in 2024. I wasn't actually going to start it at all. And then Bren posted the 1st of January, which it obviously showed a Quaker motif. And I love Quaker samplers. My favorite of the Fox and Rabbits was 2020, which was a Quaker sampler. So as soon as he showed that first motif for January, I was like, oh my gosh. So I did a bit of a stash dive. I found some lovely Silks for You silk and a piece of fabric, and I went ahead and I got started in January, and I got started, right? And I was off to the races, and I did pretty well until I got to June. And June, my husband had some health issues, so it basically threw the entire rest of the year out of whack, and I had to stop. So it wasn't until last year that I picked it up again. Just sort of try to keep going. I did not do last year's sampler. It was far too large. But over the last several months, I've gotten 2024 to this point. All right. So I chose this as the first piece from my 10-hour rotation. And not only that, it's a focus. So I did 10 hours. My first 10 hours, I basically finished off this large motif right here, and then the second 10 hours I finished off these motifs, and so now I'm on the final love motif, which is going to take up that entire bottom right corner. So this is my very first, this is rotation slot number 1, and it gets 10 hours in between the other 2 pieces. I'm approximately 80% complete. I can do roughly 2,000 stitches per 10 hours, and I've got about 4,000 left to go. So this should be a finish before the end of the month. And again, I'm using Silks for You PR060, which is a beautiful gold color, on Fortnite Fabrics Sea Glass, which is this beautiful pale green. So that was rotation slot number 1. Complete. Slot number 2 came from the Attic Autumn Abundance retreat that I went to in November of last year. The Attic is my local shop. I usually go to one retreat a year, which is the Autumn Abundance in November. They do have other large retreats that I know a lot of folks go to, the Sampler Symposium and Summer School, and I have done those in the past, but as I am not primarily a sampler stitcher, I tend to let other folks go. I mean, that's just not something that I'm super interested in. But Autumn Abundance, for the past 3 years, I've been every year since they started it, and every year there's either at least one teacher there that I'm interested in, or the theme I'm good with, so I tend to go. So for 2025, Teresa Vanette from Shakespeare's Peddler gave us this piece in abundance at the autumn retreat. So this is what it will look like. And I did start it at the retreat. It is on 40 count natural linen. And I started in the bottom right corner, as I do. And here's where we're at. So that house is a monster. But yeah, so there's the border started and this lovely base of flowers, and then I really started in on the house. So I added another 10 hours all in the house last week or so. So that was the second piece in my rotation that I picked up. And then I went back and did another 10 hours on my 2024 mystery. So the third piece that I started, because I finished the second 10 hours on New Year's Eve, so the next piece was going to start New Year's Day, and I figured, well, this is perfect timing for my planned New Year, New Start. So I stayed up super late, stayed up till midnight, and put in just a few stitches, and then picked it up for serious on January 1st. And this is Victoria Sampler's I Love My Dog. So I will be adding an S. So I Love My Dog. And 10 hours on Summer Sky Joblin got me 5 rows completed. So here's where we are. All of the words are over 1. The big band, the big blank area in the middle will be a cutwork band, which I will do at the end. But this represents 5 of the 20 total rows in the sampler. So not bad. When I pick it up again, I'll actually work towards the top, which is another big cross stitch band. So for my puppers. So that was my New Year, New Start, and ended up as the third slot in my rotation. Now I just finished those 10 hours last night. And I do know, so I'll go back and do another 10 hours in the Fox and Rabbit, but I do know what my next rotation slot is going to be. As I mentioned, Zachary got married in October of 2024, and unlike when my daughter got married, and with everything that was going on outside of wedding, I did not complete their wedding sampler before their wedding. I did, just, you know, it is what it is. So, but we did agree on what the wedding sampler was going to be. So I'm actually going to be using the All Souls band sampler from Quiltify Design. I'm going to make some adjustments. I've got notes here of potential changes. Some of those will be done, some of those won't be done. But that's going to be the sampler. Allie, my lovely new daughter-in-law, is very much a Halloween person, just like myself and my son. So we are using kind of that spooky theme from a wedding sampler perspective. I'm using Silks for You PR 158, which is essentially a DMC 550 color, and then we'll be using some beads. These are 3035, which is essentially a purple lined green. And I don't have a whole lot going. I did start it. It's on 36 count Silvery Moon linen. This is the bottom. Once I finish this band here, then we'll put in the date, but that's the beginnings of the sampler. So this will be slot number 4 in the rotation list. So hopefully you'll get to see it as it kind of grows and we stitch, and I'll point out the adjustments and changes that I made along the way. All right, so that's as far as I've gotten from true planning. As I mentioned, I have 10 whips that I pulled to be part of this. One will always be considered a focus, meaning it'll get time in between 5 to 10 hours. I have the rest here that I'll show you what the rest of the candidates are. Just because I'm doing these whips in this order for this round doesn't mean that they'll have the same order when I start over. My goal is to spend at least 10 hours on each of the 10. And then the round is complete and we start over, and I may switch it up and decide to do a different order the next time we go through. But it'll always be these same 10 projects until they're finished, or I get sick of them. You know. So, one of the other projects, or the next one, is also a 2024 sampler, and this is the Modern Folk Embroidery 2024 sampler. I cannot remember the name of it. I apologize. This is on just 36 count platinum linen, using DMC 814 and 336. And again, I got to about May, and then life took a hard left turn, and so I got stuck there. I was doing it 30 rows per month, which would have worked out to be completed at the end of the year. So this is where I'm at. I'm about halfway, which is nice. So this becomes part of the current batch of 10. So it'll get some regular time. I don't think it'll jump up to the focus for a little while. The next piece is another start along that I picked up and got going, and it is from Needle Taught Designs, Divine Beasts. And I got part 1 done, and the beginnings of part 2. This is a Greek mythology inspired design, which I love Greek mythology. So part 1 was the unicorn, or the Pegasus, excuse me. Part 1 was the Pegasus. Part 2 is Cerberus. He's a purple Cerberus, and then the bottom is a third part. So here's where I'm at here. This is on Bestitch Me Granite 32 count Lagana. So it'll get some good time as part of this. I will put links to all of this stuff in the description box below. The next one is a piece that I started with a very dear friend of mine. It's one of the reasons that I started doing FlossTube again. And it is Shannon Christine. This is my first Shannon Christine. Nutcrackers. And this is on Picture This Plus Ren Belfast. And so here it's the nutcrackers. Our goal was to do, last year we were going to do one nutcracker a month. As you can see, I got bogged down in April. So it's time to get this going again and stitch some more nutcrackers. My son is a nutcracker fiend, so eventually it'll go to him. The next one was a Halloween start for me last year, and it is a Graveyard Wander from the Witchy Stitcher. So here we go. And I have a jingle pumpkin on this one. So I finished the lower left page. So this is where we're at on this one. And this is a piece of linen of some description. Oh, I know. Prehistoric from Fox and Rabbit, 36 count linen. So that will get more. That'll eventually get picked up. This is a relatively new start. So this is an animal cracker, Stacy Nash animal cracker. The animal crackers have never been a big draw for me. I like them, they're pretty, but I didn't really, it wasn't something that I was like, oh, I had to have. And then somehow I saw an offer for a Canadian company, Willow Cottage Quilt Company, did an offer of essentially a fully kitted animal cracker per month. They'll send you the kit for each month. It's beautifully packaged. You don't know which one you're getting on any given month. You can tell them if you have some already, you can tell them so that they don't send you duplicates. But I was like, let's give this a try. I had really hemmed and hawed for the Jingle Ball, for the animal cookie that Stacy Nash had offered, but I didn't ultimately buy the chart. I probably should have, but it'll be out eventually. So this is the first one that I received from Willow Cottage, Miss Hazel. Now the funny thing is, growing up, one of the books that I vividly recall growing up and read to my children had a squirrel in it named Miss Hazel. So it was kind of funny when this is what I got in the mail. But I gave her a start. So she's got an arm. She's got a little ruff on her dress. So she'll be going. She's all in called for Weeks Dye Works threads on Weeks Dye Works fabric. So she's in one of the slots. I've already received my second one, which is Finley. Finley was the second one that I received in December. So, and again, fully kitted, fabric, floss, everything, beautifully packaged from Willow Cottage. So we'll probably have an animal cracker slot for a while. And then finally, the last one was another sal that I started for last year, and this was the Satsuma Street Holiday House. As soon as I saw the penguins, that was kind of the thing right there. And this is on a piece of hog bristle, 36 count from Fox and Rabbit. So, and this is, the first part was the nutcracker, and then the second part is the tree, and then the third part were the penguins, and there's more that's going up above, but I'll put a picture up so you can see the whole thing. So, and it comes in a lovely nutcracker bag from Evertote. So, all DMC. So those are the 10 whips that are going to be that are currently part of the rotation plan. Like I said, depending upon what calls, or depending upon where we're at, what I feel like working on, I can pull from any of those 10, and that'll be a slot. Once I get through at least 10 hours on all of them, then we'll call that round done and start over on a new one. So 10-hour rotation, it's very comfortable to me. I know it takes me at least 2 to 4 days to get through those 10 hours. And to me, I make significant progress, which is good. So now, those are basically the current whips. I do have some new starts already in the hopper for 2026. The first one was because my son bought me this beautiful Dimensions kit for Christmas. Sorry about the glare. Wintertime Fairy. I have bought a piece of 36 count even weave because it comes on 18 count Aida, and no. So I did buy some 36 count. I got some 36 count even weave. But once I have the Fox and Rabbit piece done, then Wintertime Fairy will take that slot. He asked me in November to teach him how to stitch because he wanted to make something handmade for his wife for Christmas. So I found a small kit that was a cat's face. They're cat people. And he stitched it. I taught him. He came over. I sat down and walked him through how to read the chart, got him started, all of that. And he stitched it. I think he got it done. I'm not sure. If he didn't get it done, he got it really close. Of course, he couldn't keep a secret, and she knew what was going on. But with that, he basically found this kit for me for Christmas, which it was the first time he'd ever provided that kind of gift or did that. So it was very heartwarming, and so I want to reward that, right, and get it going. I had never seen that kit before I opened it on Christmas Eve. So the other plans I have are Mirabilia. So I am going to go to StitchCon this year, 2026. I went in 2021. I did not go anytime after that, 2021. I usually had another major commitment in June, and so I did not. I couldn't manage both of them in the same month. But that commitment, I did my last year in 2025. So 2026, I can go back to StitchCon. So one of my friends is also going to be there, and so we've decided we want to start a pixie. So I've got Water Lily, one of the Mirabilia pixies that will be started at StitchCon. She'll be started on White Belfast, just like all my other pixies. The other Mirabilia that I'd like to get started this year are Royal Games. So the Queen of Hearts and Queen of Spades. So this one's already all kitted up and ready to go. So those will happen at some point this year. And then I've seen the new Fox and Rabbit. I am interested. When I finish the 2024, look at it again and see how it goes. I saw January. The January band was very easy. But I like the fact that it's smaller and it's a band sampler. So that is absolutely intriguing. So there's a definite possibility that that'll come in, but we'll see. It'll be a pure stash only piece. But I'm not even looking at it until I finish 2024. And then finally, as part of summer school at the Attic in August, Plum Street Sampler released a new Americana sampler. I don't remember the name of it. I apologize. And I know that Attic has been hinting that they're going to get that released prior to July of this year. If they do, that will be another start for this year. Probably in July, I will probably start it. So then that means that I need to get at least 2 of my current rotation whips finished so that I have slots for those new starts. I don't count the temperature. I don't count the local conditions, the temperature chart in my 10 rotation. So, because it's going to be an everyday thing. So that's it. Those are the current whips. Those are the plans, everything. You are caught up with me as far as stitching goes. I also read quite a bit for the last 4.5 years. I am on a 1,300 plus consecutive day of reading. I read every night before I go to sleep. Again, not going to attempt to go through the few hundred books that I read over the last 4.5 years. But I will mention some of the highlights, right, of series that I found that I very much enjoyed. The first one is in 2024, a couple of friends and I read through the Zodiac Academy series by Susan Valenti and Caroline Peckham. We did everything. We did the 3 main series plus the novellas that are in between. Ruthless Boys of the Zodiac is the first series chronologically. That's what we read first. Then Zodiac Academy, and then Darkmoor Penitentiary is the 3rd series. Romantasy, fantasy, popcorn reading, essentially. It's fun. It was fun. Good characters. It was fun. But that was pretty much 2024. Last year, I started my Brandon Sanderson Cosmere journey. And in January of last year, I read the first Mistborn era. 3 months for the first 3 books. I continued. I've read Era 1 Mistborn, Era 2 Mistborn, some of the standalones in between, and I started Stormlight Archive in November. I'm currently reading Words of Radiance, which is the 2nd book in Stormlight Archive, and very, very much enjoying that series. And it's one of those things where, oh my God, why didn't I start this sooner? I really, really like it. Another big find for me in the science fiction realm was a series called Expeditionary Force by Craig Allinson, specifically the audiobooks by R.C. Bray. It's science fiction. It's a bunch of humans on a spaceship, and there's an AI that's extremely snarky named Skippy that I love, and it's a long series, 19 books. 19th book is coming out at the end of this month. So very much enjoyed that. I have listened to it twice through. So Dungeon Crawler Carl is another book series. In fact, I had the pleasure of going to a book signing for Matt Dinneman, who is the author, and he signed me. So that was fun. He had made a post a couple days earlier for people to bring whatever to the signing. Heck, bring your mother, I'll sign your mother. So my daughter, her husband, and I went to the book signing, and she asked him to sign me, which he did. So it's an excellent memory. Fantastic series. Literary RPG, so it's got gaming elements as well as fantasy elements. It's fantastic. I loved it. I've listened to the whole thing. It's currently 8 books. Book 9 is coming out in May. Book 8, currently 7 books. Book 8 is coming out in May. I've listened to the whole thing at least twice through. I'll listen to it again before the next book comes out. It's fantastic. And then finally, for 2026, the series that I will be revisiting is The Hollows by Kim Harrison. I read the first era, if you will, of The Hollows. In fact, my daughter and I went to a book signing for the final book, and then she started writing more books. And I haven't read any of the new series, but we did read the entire first series. So I'm going to revisit those. The audiobooks are very good, so I'm actually going to listen to them in the midst of everything else. So lots of reading. So that's pretty much it. That's where we are today. That's kind of the highlights. thank you so much for visiting. Thank you so much for, if you're a returning viewer, thank you very much. If you're brand new, welcome. I know some of my returning viewers, you might remember that previously we had background music. That is the plan going forward. It just was not in the cards for today. So, but I suspect that that'll return at some point. So, but thank you very much. Have a fantastic day. Happy stitching, and enjoy your day. Thank you.